Everybody, Tim Kawakami here with we're 49ers Plus. Minus is the name of the show. Just jumping right to the co-host. I'm just so excited to have on as my guest. No, my co-host. It's Matt Barrows from The Athletic. We are recording this Sunday night after the 49ers lose in Tampa Bay 30-19. That is not even close to the biggest news, of course. Fred Warner dislocates, and I guess Shanahan said probably also broke a bone in his ankle, obviously out for the year. You knew that from the second that he stayed on the ground, and everyone, you could tell players from both sides knew it was very serious. I guess there was a bad replay that I don't want to see, but that showed that this was not a good situation. Barrows, just your first response, seeing that, knowing what this means, kind of, we got some of the responses from Shanahan and some of the players. Just kind of what's your first thought about all this?
Yeah, my first thought is that these aren't just losses that they're suffering. These are, blows to the solar plexus. These are soul-crushing losses. And it's just very hard to envision this team being able to sustain it, because Fred Warner, not just the best middle linebacker in the game, but he's basically the voice, the soul of this team. He's the guy that's always rallying people, whether it's a spring practice, whether it's before the game on Sundays, whether it's at halftime. I did that halftime piece against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of years ago when the 49ers hosted them. And I always thought the idea of a rah-rah halftime speech was something out of Hollywood. It didn't exist. And so I was surprised when, before the second half began, Fred Warner had everybody in the middle of the locker room and was giving a speech, rallying them. I mean, they were up a lot in that game, but he wanted to make sure that they kept the pressure on. So, I mean, this is day in and day out. He never shuts off. Even apparently after dislocating his ankle, he was the one who broke down the locker room after this game. Neither you nor I were there, but
I've never heard of the injured player doing that ever.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just, I've never heard of an injured player doing it. I've certainly never heard of a guy who just was out for the year. Like, you just broke your ankle, dislocated your ankle. Most time they're going to the hospital, they're going whatever. You're not hanging around, and he's there and he's breaking him down. That's remarkable. That's absolutely remarkable that he did that.
Yeah, he's their Iron Man. So, I mean, I think it's absolutely symbolic of the season that even the 49ers Iron Man goes down with a gruesome injury this year. And like I said, I just don't know if it's sustainable or not. I know we're going to talk about Trey Hendrickson and trades and what this means for the season that has yet to be played. But it's going to be tough, and I think it's going to be tougher moving forward.
It's just, I compare him to McCaffrey on the other side, and even more so because he's such a leader, and Christian's not that kind of guy. But just, I don't know that they are who they are or hope to be without either one of them. McCaffrey on offense, we talked about it. Shanahan just sometimes just doesn't seem to know what to do without him, and then he absolutely knows what to do when McCaffrey's out there. And I think the same thing with Warner. It's hard for me to think of what this defense is going to look like, what this team's going to sound like without Fred Warner out there. And it's even more, and it's hard to quantify more than Bosa, but yeah, it's more than Bosa. It's all, more than George Kittle. Yeah, it's more than George Kittle. It's more than Brock Purdy if you have a good backup. And what struck me and what I wrote about is just like, you're just so used to Fred being the guy up there that we're asking about these losses. I really remember when Brock Purdy was hurt in the NFC Championship game. And it's like, Fred, tell us what that's like. And he was sad, and he was, contextual. He's not the most anecdotal guy in the world. He's not exactly, for us, sometimes he can be, very, try to pick everybody's spirit up. But that's really important for a football team. And, when Bosa was hurt this year, all the other injuries, it's been Fred up there, right? We've asked Fred about it. Because he's the one who's always up there, and now he's not the one up there. I was half expecting, McCaffrey's talking, okay, Mac Jones talking, and now Fred Warner's talking, just because he's always at the podium in a moment of importance. And he's not there now. Now they're going to be in the background. He's going to be on the team playing all these things. I mean, he won't be in future road games that he is this time. But the loss of that, plus the fact that he's an incredible football player, it's just not. They're not who they are without him. Tatum Bethune, not going to obviously just you can't. But you couldn't trade. Who would you trade for to try to replace Fred Warner? Like there's Luke Kuechly from 5 years ago. Like it's just Brian Urlacher from 14 years ago. Like there's nobody like him. And so, yes, I do think this injury, more than any they've suffered this year, and probably similar to McCaffrey last year, alters the season. It just changes the dynamics of what they can be, what they will try to be at the trade deadline, and just the way they sound. Like, I've already feeling that in the locker room. If there's no Kittle talking, there's no Bosa talking, it's different, right? It's different in there. And no Fred now. We'll get Kittle back, but it's just going to be a very big culture shock, I think, beyond the football. The football's immense, right? Tatum Bethune should have been there to get Baker Mayfield on that long third down run that he did. It was an amazing Baker Mayfield run, but Tatum Bethune took a wrong angle, was slow, got blocked. That's right. He's not Fred Warner. Fred Warner would have been a stop 5 yards short of the first down. It's just a practical difference. That's in addition to the leadership. And I think I did a story out with Fred once, and I think we counted like 7 speeches throughout the day. Like he's just always rallying them. Yeah. And without him, who's going to do it, Barrows?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Moore is somebody they're kind of nudging that way, but he's not Fred. I mean,
no, in a league, and certainly a team where guys are in and out of the lineup all the time. Fred Warner has been the constant, even last year when he suffered a broken bone in his ankle, a smaller bone, obviously, in week 4, and then basically played the rest of the season with it. So, very hard to see how that gets replaced. I think the only answer is that, it's up to the offense to run the show now. You can't win anymore 22-20. You're going to have to score 30 points a game, which is what the Buccaneers scored today in order to be competitive. And so, Purdy might come back. George Kittle might come back. Ricky Pearsall might come back. This is for the Atlanta game that's coming up. But, it's sort of like the Detroit Lions from last year. They need to pour on the points every week. You can't have a hiccup. And they're hemorrhaging players on offense all the time too.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is playing with 5 broken ribs. Kendrick Bourne looks great, but there's always 1 or 2 Kendrick Bourne plays that take away from his performance. And one was the interception. Obviously, he did not recognize the blitz. It was supposed to be the hot receiver there, and did not follow through with that. His run blocking also has been pretty terrible. I mean, and such a difference from Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and what we're used to. He did finish with 142 yards for the second straight game. So he's been their big play guy, especially when Mac Jones is in the game. They've got an obvious rapport and a rapport that, this is what I wrote about. It's hard for Jones or anybody to get going with any other receivers because no one ever practices on this team. I mean, Jones doesn't practice. Purdy doesn't practice. Juwan Jennings doesn't practice. Pearsall doesn't practice. Kittle hasn't practiced because he's been on IR. But this idea that, okay, maybe the offense can compensate for your 2 stars missing on defense. Well, that idea is compromised by the fact that they've got their own injury issues, and they certainly aren't clicking on all cylinders right now.
They're not running. They're not running. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, can they do that on the fly? Can they do that from week 7 onward? And frankly, I'm skeptical, and I'm usually the optimist of the group. Usually on the ray of sunshine, and Tim is the dark, stormy cloud. but I might be more
Well, let's go back to what Shanahan.
Kawakami-esque
Yeah,
this
let's go back to what Shanahan said last week when I asked him, like, or do you feel similar to 2019 when you were one piece away, you make the big move, 3 draft picks, whatever, Manuel Sanders. Manuel Stewart's a great trainer, and Manuel Sanders. And he's like, no, do not feel that way. That team was Super Bowl defense, just needed one thing, and very clearly subtext, or not even the subtext, the text is that this team is not one player away. And I understood that. Trey Hendrickson's a really big player that I thought like you could just plop him in. If Nick Bosa was the reason that you had a good pass rush and you don't have them, that's why you don't have a good pass rush now. Trey Hendrickson literally is just like a 1-for-1. But even then, I think even as you said, and as I certainly conceded, you still could get players hurt. Like you still could be not one player away. And the loss of Fred Warner means they are way more than one player away. They are 2 or 3. And you can't give up premium draft picks to try to make a run for what? To run for 10 wins? Run for the second wild card? You know, they're not there. They're 4-2, right? They're still leading the division. They have wins over all other NFC West teams. But it's you could see them get to 4-4 real fast, right? Atlanta, I don't know, great or not, but you could see them be shell-shocked, lose at home on Sunday, and then lose in Houston the next Sunday, and then they could lose in New York, right? The Giants are playing better. You can be 4-5 pretty quickly. Still not be a bad team, but just kind of the weight of this begins to pull at you. At that point, I wouldn't just, even if they're 5-4, you're too far away from it to say, we just need one. Let's give up a second-round pick, because that second-round pick could be their tackle next year, right? I mean, we start to look at it. We could talk about Jawan Jennings. We neither one of us saw it, but we saw the reporting of it. You know, get into some kind of jawing thing with Shanahan when he's not in the lineup at the end of the second quarter. They're running down a long drive to set up a field goal at the end of the first half. I assume that's why aren't I in there? Because he does have playtime incentives. That's a big deal, right? Playtime incentives. He's not hitting them. He's been hurt. He's not going to, I'm sure he's not on track to hit them, whatever the percent is. And then Shannon said, oh, yeah, competitors, and it's over now. But then Juwan Jennings asked about it in the locker room, says you have to ask him about it, and does not sound entirely in love with the situation, and then does reveal he's got 5 broken ribs. Weird situation. He's probably not going to be on the team next year, Barrows. I kind of said that. I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. He's a pending free agent. Do you start looking at, who's not going to be on the team next year? It's not a fire sale, but we're really looking at 2026. There are not that many players you'd put in that class, but that's one of them. I don't even know what you could get for him, frankly. But just to start that process. The counter to that, though, is as much as he doesn't have chemistry with Mac Jones, he's got chemistry with Brock Purdy, who is your starting quarterback. Yeah. So this Kendrick Bourne thing probably not happening with Brock Purdy, at least not to this magnitude. But there's a few other names I could think of that at least Jair Brown, all of a sudden he's in the starting lineup, knocking out.
That was peculiar to me.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
Showcase, or I don't know what that was. Just like you don't think he's good enough to play for 5 games, you go 4-1, and then all of a sudden he's good enough to knock out Jason Pinnock. It's bizarre to me, at least, with Malik Mustafa coming back too. And I some interesting stuff there. The other one, it would have to all fall apart for Mac Jones in that. And I've said quarterbacks, it's hard to trade him in the middle of the season. But Joe Flacco just got traded. There are teams that can use a quarterback. Some of them, play the system similar to what the 49ers do. Some of them play systems similar to what Mac Jones has played in New England. He's a starting quarterback, right? He's an NFL starting quarterback. He's not a great one. I don't think he's as good as Brock Purdy. I don't think he's close to as good as Brock Purdy, but he's a starting quarterback. Could you get a 4th round pick for him that, maybe a 5th that turns into a 4th if he wins a few games? I don't know. Those are the names I'm thinking of. If this turns in a way and you're not destroying yourself, you're just kind of planning ahead. I don't know, Barris, what do you think about all that?
Well, you've gone from these guys got to trade for Trey
Yeah,
Hendrickson.
well,
Let's just trade, let's just
I
trade
knew
the whole team.
I knew you were going to say that. I
Oh
did not
yeah, we're
realize Fred
4 and
Warner.
2.
Yeah, but Fred Warner was hurt. I did not realize Fred Warner was going to be lost for the year. If Fred Warner was out for 3 weeks, be different conversation. And you're right. There could be another injury. There could be another injury. There could be another injury. You just don't know. Or the Rams could suffer 4 injuries, or the Seahawks could suffer 4 injuries. You just don't know. But I'm like, you got to go for it. You absolutely have to go for it. I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying if you can start to reorder your roster with players who aren't really doing it right now. Juwan Jennings, 1 catch, 3 targets. I mean, do you really need him? Is like if Pearsall's coming back now again, he might be hurt again too. Do you really need Juwan Jennings? Do you want him complaining if that's what he's doing? He doesn't practice anymore. I'm just trying to start thinking about what a reordering of the world is like with Fred Warner not on this team for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think that. I think that this team can do just as well. I mean, especially if Mac Jones is playing. Kendrick Bourne seems to fill that role, the go-to guy role that Jennings had last year with Purdy. But Purdy's coming back. Well, let's see if the Jennings chemistry gets rekindled. I got to think that it's frustrating for Jennings, not only because he's got playtime incentives, but he is fighting through these injuries. This is his 4th injury since training camp. Remember, he had the calf early in training camp, and then he had a shoulder injury in week 1, and then he had an ankle injury in week 2 that he's saying now is both a low and a high ankle sprain. And then he had the rib injury. I think that was in the Jaguars game in week 4. So here he is. He's fighting to play. He's obviously in a lot of pain. You break 1 rib and it's hard to breathe. You break 5 and I can't imagine it. And yet he's out there and he's not getting thrown to on 3rd downs. He's not, 3rd and Juwan, all that stuff. So I can understand his frustration. And by the way, Juwan Jennings is somebody, when things went south at Tennessee, did not hold his tongue and sort of famously had a harangue, a rant. So this is part of him. The Jair Brown situation, to me, I couldn't figure it out either. Because remember, you and I were saying, okay, well, let's just say that Malik Mustafa's back. Who does he replace? Does he replace Brown? Does he replace Marquise Siegel, who struggled a little bit against the Rams? No, some bizarre thing that it's Brown and Pinnock in a game where you lose Fred Warner. So all of a sudden your communication is already compromised a little bit because Fred Warner is the guy that gets your plays. He calls everything. He makes adjustments. And now your safety duo is different. And you're losing your veteran presence there in Jason Pinnock. And lo and behold, there are a couple of big busts in the secondary on Sunday. I mean, they let up, I forget what the yardage was, but it was their 2 longest passing touchdowns allowed all season were Sunday against the Buccaneers. So I don't think that it's not a coincidence. You're missing Fred Warner. You just reshuffled your safety duo. I can't quite figure out. I mean, I think Jair Brown was playing well, and maybe it's a reward for him for how well he played. He played very well against the Rams, but it was a limited number of snaps. I forget what it was, like 12 snaps. He made a decision to start 2 others at the beginning of the year and to sit Brown. And I realized that was probably based a lot on injuries and availability. But those other 2 guys were playing well. And if there was one guy who wasn't playing well, it wasn't the guy that you just took out of the lineup. It was the other guy.
Siegel. Well, Siegel was taken out. No, it was Brown and Siegel were basically the starters, right? And
yeah, but I'm saying they took Pinnock out, who was sort of the veteran guy who hasn't been playing poorly. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Obviously, the Mustafa bringing you confused me because I think you said Pinnock once when you meant Siegel, so you can confuse me. So and Mustafa coming back, clearly juggled things, right? They're doing something because he's back, but he was in there. I don't know exactly what they were doing with him. Obviously, free and strong are kind of interchangeable in this system. So it's kind of hard to see exactly what role everybody is. And by the way, I thought Jair Brown was really, why don't you just keep him as that kind of Sam linebacker? I that's where he really seemed to flourish, just go attack the ball. It was weird. The whole thing was weird. And I thought they'd want to get to Mustafa and Sigel, and then it's not Mustafa and Sigel, it's Mustafa and Brown when Mustafa's in there. I kind of am confused, but
I think you're on the right track there, though.
yeah.
I mean, they want the future to be Mustafa and Sigel. You can't expect Mustafa to come in cold and play, 68 snaps. So you put him in that sort of quasi linebacker role to sort of let him get his legs underneath him. But it doesn't explain why you made Jair Brown the starter.
Yeah.
So
When that deep ball, by the way, I don't even know who the Bucs receivers were because all their top guys were hurt. Michael Evans, Godwin, over the top, and that was Sigel was late. I don't know whether that was his guy, but he was the one who was closest to it.
It was Sigel, Sigel took I think Baker Mayfield pump faked, and Sigel bit, and the wide receiver just went right past him, and he couldn't catch up. So, I mean, that's what you expect from a rookie. I'm sure the 49ers knew that was going to be the case at some point this year, that their rookie deep safety is going to get caught like that. But it's interesting. I mean, and I think that it's all part of the same theme that we're hitting on here, is that this team made a decision at the end of last season that they were going to try to get younger. They were going to lose all their veterans. They were going to draft a lot of rookies, and that this was going to be a youth movement year. And I think the safety situation is indicative of that. I think it's a move towards the Mustafa Sigel duo, but they didn't want to do it all at once because Mustafa hasn't played since January.
Yep. I will have to get my one little tiny shot in that they got rid of all their injury-prone guys, Barrows. That's what they did. They got rid of the injury-prone guys. They were just had to get rid of the injury-prone guys. Guess what? You get hurt no matter what in the NFL. You just do. And the whole part of it. Now, listen, some of it's right. They did a reset. If everyone's going to get hurt, do the reset, go back at it in 2026. And I do think there's going to be some of that. Like let's get it right for 2026. But the idea that I heard, the explanation for it, that all these other guys just get hurt too much, we got to get rid of them, doesn't sound right now, just because everybody gets hurt. You just don't know. There are some players that are injury prone, but you cannot tell me when an injury is going to happen with somebody. You can't. You just don't know. So I just want to make that point real quickly in here and just say, listen, they're resetting for 2026. That's fine. There could be some steps they take to get there. That's another reason why you don't trade draft picks, right? You need those draft picks for the team next year, because there are going to be some things they need. And there are some players now that you start to wonder about for 2026. I think Trent Williams is likely to play next season, but it's not 100% like it wasn't 100% this year. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is way slowed down like we talked about last week. I think there probably are plays that he's making that no one else can make, but he's still not running the ball. Like they got one rushing touchdown, but otherwise I think 3.1 yards per run. That's like they're right about 3.1. That's not a sustainable number for a team that likes to run the ball. Like they need some more players, and that's why you don't trade your premium draft picks if you're not right on the brink of it. And they are not on the brink. Like they're not. I'm not watching this Chiefs-Lions game, but they're not as good as those teams. They're not as good as the Packers. They're not as good as the Eagles are struggling right now, but the Eagles, we've seen them getting funks in the middle of the season and then blast off, and they're still just fine at 4-2. This is not a team that can play with those teams. It just isn't. They can get in the playoffs though, Bears, and there's value in that. And again, I expect them to push for the playoffs. They should. You never know what's going to happen, but without 54 in there, I don't know who they're beating once they get the playoffs. It's just a goal for them to have, and I think they can try to build that momentum going again, like maybe build towards 2026.
Yeah. Without 54 and 97,
Yep.
and those are your two impact players on defense. I'm gonna find the thinnest
Hmm.
silver lining that I can find, and that is, you know, when Kittle comes back, you would think that the running game would start to get better. And then maybe IU comes back. And so by the end of the season, perhaps your offense is doing pretty well, and perhaps you do sneak into the playoffs. And now I don't think that they're going to go very far in the playoffs. I mean, I keep likening this team to Detroit last year, but they're not as good as Detroit's offense
No,
last year.
no.
And Detroit ran out of steam too. They just couldn't stop anybody by the end of the season. I think that's what's going to happen to this defense, and it started to happen in this game. I mean, look at all the yards that Baker Mayfield had over the middle, and he was without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Egbuka. They're all-world rookie receiver, and he still was throwing all over the middle of the field today to relatively unknown wide receivers. So that's Fred Warner's purview. That's where he roams. I didn't think that D Winters had a very good game. I mean, that's what happens when you lose Fred Warner. The people all around you don't play up to their potential. So so I think that's going to get worse and worse as the year goes on. And the fact that they have no pass rush is problematic as well. So it's up to
A really good, bright, really good
Hey,
silver lining.
I went for a silver lining here. I took a dark path.
The silver lining is they're really
point,
bad on defense.
My point is that maybe the offense can, at some point, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it takes a while for these guys to find their rhythm to get going. But by the end of the season, perhaps they're scoring 30 points a game.
Well, they have banked 4 wins. Just that's you don't take those away. 3 of those are in division, and Purdy is not a serious injury that we know of. McCaffrey's still healthy. Kittle, not a serious injury that we know of. Pearsall, not a serious injury that we know of. Again, they could suffer more injuries. We don't know what's going on with Jennings, but like that could happen, and they could score 24 to 27 a game, and we'll see what happens with the defense. No question. They got a hell of a kicker, by the way. One fucking hell of a kicker. It's just, what the hell was he available for? How was that possible? Like, I kind of blame them for not having him in a camp. Why was Greg Joseph in camp if this guy was available the whole time? Someone else could have signed him the whole time you're doing this Jake Moody, Greg Joseph thing in camp. My God, Eddie Pinheiro.
Pinheiro probably didn't want to be used like Greg Joseph obviously was being used.
Ridiculous. Then you should have
set up to fail. Yeah,
you're our guy then. Eddie Pinheiro, you're our guy. Why even go through this time with Jake Moody? The 49ers have a kicking advantage in almost every game now. It's really wild how this is flipped. It's like when that guy, I forget, Chase McLaughlin, the old 49er, like he lined up for the one that he missed. I didn't feel good with him over that ball. It's like something like, and he misses. Eddie Pinheiro, 56-yarder is going in. What are you talking about? It's no problem. It's remarkable. And it's that same thing I've been talking about. The ball does not move. It stays so straight. Once it goes up, and if it's within the 2 uprights, it's going in. There's no movement to it. It's not curving. It's this. Robbie Gould kicked a similar. He had a little more movement, but the straight ball, it is a beautiful ball. If you're one of on his team, it just does not move, leave the center of the goalpost. The guy's good. The guy's really good.
And of course, this is the same stadium in which Jake Moody missed 3 last year, and then had a sideline confrontation with Deebo Samuel. So if the 49ers had pulled out this win, that would have been a major contrast from last year.
By the way, really good stuff they're getting from Jordan Watkins and Jordan James this season. I cannot believe they're doing this. I know that you do have to deactivate certain number every game, so they just go on that list. But in a season where they're dying for anyone to play, specifically at receiver, and they have carried Jordan Watkins this entire time. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. It's just, it's a waste of a roster spot where these things are valuable at any time, and they're super valuable for the 49ers. It just befuddles me how they've done this, but oh well, it might not matter much anymore. But
did you pick up on this? In the second half, you know how they have Sky Moore and Isaac Guerendo back for
yeah,
kickoffs. It was Sky Moore and Brian Robinson Jr.
yeah,
To start the second half.
yeah,
So Isaac Guerendo has fallen further out of favor, it seems like.
yeah.
So I wonder if that means that Jordan James,
Hmm.
a guy that Tim Kawakami has picked on all season, will start to get a little bit more action from here on out. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's in the lineup for the first time all season Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons.
I didn't notice because Brian Robinson got 2 kickoff returns. Like they kicked it to him. So it's like, whoa, that's a little
No,
different.
yeah,
It's
he's not
he's
very
not
fast.
yeah, he's not a kickoff return kind of guy either. I was like, who's that tight end returning kickoffs? But yeah, there's something going on there, and they probably couldn't get anything in a trade for Guerendo. You don't trade running backs because we know you run out. But I do wonder how long he's going to be on the team. They clearly are not giving him. They've knocked him down on the depth chart. If Jordan James, I think that's a good estimate, a good guess. If he's playing, then Guerendo's not going to get activated. He's deactivated because you don't have 4 running backs active. And then what point is he to have on the team other than just as an injury insurance? So could be some interesting. As this progresses, I'm just going to be curious about how they move on. People were mentioning to me on Twitter, because Nick Martin, get Nick Martin out there. And this is something you've taught me, something that I've watched. They don't cross-train young players at middle linebacker. You're either a middle linebacker or you're a weak side / strong side. Weak side / strong side, that's somewhat interchangeable. But middle linebacker, Tatum Bethune is the backup middle linebacker. There are no other. Curtis Robinson could be, but it's Tatum Bethune. It's not like, and Nick Martin's getting some snaps there. That's not how they do it.
No.
If Nick Martin could be brought up because Curtis Robinson moved maybe into a different role, and maybe Bethune doesn't play special teams right. So then you need someone else, and that's where Nick Martin could get some time. And if he plays well in special teams, maybe they start thinking about what they can do with him. Maybe Luke Gifford is not out there anymore. He did not look very good in his time out there today. You could see some other things, but Nick Martin is not playing middle linebacker. There's no way Nick Martin is playing middle linebacker. It's going to be very, very rare. Even Nick Martin is on the active roster for him to get many snaps. Just letting people know that they're very curious about him. I get it. D Winters beat him out, and that was the spot. And he's not playing over D Winters. Now, D Winters struggles or D Winters gets hurt. Different story, but there's no way Nick Martin's coming in and getting snaps ahead of D Winters at this point. And I could not see that happening anytime in the near future.
I agree with you. I think it's either he comes in as the strong side backer for Luke Gifford, and he's sort of similar to Jair Brown. I mean, he's not that much heavier than Jair Brown is, so he'd be sort of that third linebacker who comes in on obvious running downs, but against teams that are a little light as well. So that could be it. Or as you said, I mean, the likeliest scenario is that D Winters gets hurt at some point this season, has to miss some time. And that's when Nick Martin comes in. So yeah, Nick Martin, Jordan James, Jordan Watkins, those are the guys that you might expect to see, I don't know, in the next 3 or 4 games, at least moonlighting a little bit at those positions.
Anything else you got there, Barrows? I do think the Juwan Jennings, Kyle Shanahan / John Lynch situation is worth monitoring. That incentive package has not been made public. It usually hits the transom and everyone knows it. I bet you it hasn't been filed. We don't know what the numbers are. We don't know what the percentages are. I've been a little dubious about this the whole time. I thought this was an agent face-saving mode to say, he got this great new thing, and he turned down this other contract. And I was very, very questioning whether the 49ers were going to do anything of any merit at this point. I knew they were kind of mad at him. So let's see. And if he's not putting numbers up, then I don't know where this is headed. And he's going to get frustrated if he's not going to hit this number. And he's going to get even more frustrated if he's not getting the ball. So maybe Purdy comes in there and he starts getting 6 balls, 8 balls, whatever. But if he doesn't, then it's something that bears watching. That is definitely a hot button issue with inside the 49ers.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind that there are still 11 games left.
Yep.
It feels like we played 2.5 seasons already.
Yeah,
11
true.
games left, which can mean a lot of things, good and bad. But like I said before, there is precedent here. John Jennings got frustrated at the University of Tennessee and was not shy about letting his emotions fly. And we saw something somewhat similar to that, I think, today on the sideline. So, yeah, you're right. Bears monitoring for sure.
And then, when's Ayuk coming back? It's like, it has felt like a long time. It's only been 6 games. But this is about when we were told to start watching for it. Doesn't sound like he's too close, though, Barrows. Any sense on that one?
No sense on that one. I asked about Curtis Rourke. I mean, remember, there were 3 ACL guys.
Yeah.
They were Curtis Rourke, coming out of Indiana, pre-existing ACL, Malik Mustafa, who aggravated an ACL in week 18 last year, and then, of course, Ayuk, who tore his ACL, among other things, on October 20. And the pat answer from Shanahan was that, week 6 is when we start to kind of think about those guys. Well, Mustafa's back, probably going to be starting soon. I asked about Rourke the other day, and Shanahan said the plan is to kind of open his window soon. I don't think they're ever going to activate him because he is a rookie who missed all of the spring and all of training camp, but they want to get him into practices and give him a nice head start on year 2 with them. But it doesn't seem like Ayuk is in the offing yet, but that could change. I'll ask Shanahan that tomorrow on the conference call because, you do have, a couple of road games coming up. You got the Falcons at home and then some road games, but then you have a spate of home games. So you could have that window open up and then have Ayuk come back and not have to get on an airplane for a long trip.
I don't think he's playing in MetLife Stadium. I'll put it that
No,
way. That is not happening. That is not happening.
Point.
All right, Barrows. We did 36 minutes on this. The season took a turn. We'll see. I'm sure things will still be interesting. Maybe things will be recalibrated, but it definitely took a turn today. One of the major turns that we've seen in a while. So let's keep our finger on the pulse of this. Keep watching. Keep waiting. Like and subscribe, as they say. I never do that. I never say that, but I know everyone else does. So like and subscribe. Do whatever you want to. Watch the video. Subscribe to the video. Make Barrows very happy. Let's get to 1,000 subscriptions.
Yeah, we're close. We're real close.
YouTube. Yeah, we're close. We'll get
there. We might lose some after this week, though.
Your silver linings will get people so down. Here's a silver lining. We're all going to die sometime. That's a silver lining. All right, you and Shanahan go in that dark mode. All right, everybody. Show for today.